And by the way, osteoporosis kills as many people as breast cancer does.
Wow.
Right. It's
Wow.
not as dramatic because what happens is people have a fracture, they go to the hospital, they can't heal their fracture, they're stuck in bed because they can't move around, they get pneumonia, and they die of pneumonia. So it's less dramatic, but it's still death.
Right. Right.
You have a 50% chance of dying if you have a hip fracture over the age of 50.
Wow.
Within 1 year. Within 1 year of that fracture.
That's wild.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy statistic.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's very poor education on that subject. Also, I mean, I think the breast cancer awareness marketing had gone really well. They get everybody in the NFL to wear pink shoes.
Sure.
Also, I think it's very scary for women, whereas breasts are like, something that females have.
Right. Exclusively.
I can still say that on this podcast, right? Because we're not in clown world right now. Okay. Yeah. So breast tissues typically grown on a female body.
Yeah.
And I say typically because I want to leave margin in there for anybody else who wants to feel included. But the idea that this symbol of femininity can actually host something that could kill someone, I think it's just, it's a more scary thought.
Yeah.
But it's still the same amount of death, So like, but I mean, these were also
probably
challenges.
with a very similar market, I'm assuming, if you want to call it a market. I'm just saying, like, women who are aging, maybe who didn't do a lot of athletic things, typically probably have not as good bone density. Is my point. Is like that same segment of the population is going to struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like they're similar.
Yeah, similar groups of people. Also, anyone who's had chemo or radiation destroys your bone. Even quicker than veganism does, which is shocking because it's really bad with veganism. So 20 out of 20 studies have demonstrated that vegetarianism and veganism will cause you to have much more damaged bone density and ultimately shorter mortality. You'll die younger by being a vegan because your bones are just so frail. Also, they get osteonecrosis problems. You ever see a vegan bite into like a carrot and their teeth come out?
No.
This happens. That's like 7 years after being vegan. Yeah, your skull loses attachment to its teeth.
So wild.
Yeah, and people are like, American Medical Association is telling you this is the healthiest thing you can do.
Right.
And they know better. They know that's not true. But it works out for world governments who like pushing cheap food.
Sure. What do you get a bunch of people coming to you from that lifestyle at all, or are they just so repelled by everything else that you say that they're not willing to listen to you on this other topic?
No, so I mean, I don't like the idea of veganism. It is malnutrition. But I'm not mean to vegans. Like I always attack the idea, not the person.
Okay,
because the person's maybe just misinformed.
Sure,
like it's not their fault. And also, like, I'm a gentleman. Like, I learned that in my fraternity. You never say anything nasty about a person. You might say what they're trafficking in is bad.
If you can't disseminate ideas, how do we know if they're correct or incorrect?
Well, also ad hominem. Like you don't want to look at, like, I noticed that when people what I'm most known for is not the bone density thing. It's X3. It's the muscle technology. So I can force a muscle to grow way faster than anybody who's lifting weights. And that's why my second book is called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. And I demonstrate that in the book. But people, they get so upset and then they look at my scientific arguments. Well, the scientific argument is bulletproof. Like variable resistance. So like when I do a chest press, I hold 130 pounds here at the bottom, in the middle, maybe 300 pounds, and then 550 at the top. And I can exhaust the musculature to a far greater degree and trigger much more growth by doing that. And all of the studies on the subject say exactly the same thing. Like this will make you grow muscle much faster. So what happens is people want to attack me. They can't attack the scientific argument, so they attack me personally instead.
Yeah.
So they make fun of my university and say it's not accredited, which is a lie. It is. Or they'll say, well, he takes steroids, which I don't. which is really easy to figure out because it's sort of like, have you ever seen a steroid user? Like they're very different.
Yeah.
And all other little things. So they attack me personally.
Yeah. Because they don't like your ideas.
Right. Because they're upset by the idea, but they know the way I've presented it is infallible.
Yeah. You're not just like a meathead that worked out once.
Right. And I'm not just a guy with an opinion. Like, in fact, all of the claims I've ever made, I have multiple research references backing them up. So it's like, if you don't like the idea, well, that's your emotions. Like, science isn't for you to like or dislike. It just is.
Yeah.
So, like, ultimately, somebody says something else is, the most effective, whatever. It's like, it is not your place to get upset about it. You just accept it for what it is and say, well, I'm not going to do it that way. Oh, okay. Well, great. Nobody was going to force you to.
Sure.
But don't kick and scream about a scientific finding.
Right.
Like that's the behavior of a 2-year-old.
But this documentary that I watched.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, I get a lot of people, well, not so much anymore, but people used to ask me about game changers all the time.
Yeah.
Every single fact in there's a lie. Yeah. Everything. There are many websites
documentaries
that go
are hard,
through
man.
the list.
I like documentaries, but then, like you said, like they're not. Most of the time, they're not just educational, like unbiased educational pieces. Somebody's got a story, somebody's got something they want to prove. They start with the premise,
of course,
and then they go search for all the evidence to support the premise, and they put it into a film.
Which is exactly
they know what music they're selecting. They know what scenes, what stories they're telling.
Any scientific process,
of course, yeah,
right. Start with
the
what
conclusion,
you want to present. Start with the
find
conclusion.
evidence, to back up what you already have concluded.
But ultimately, making a documentary is not free.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to pay for it,
they got to profit from it.
Yeah. Right. Same with writing a book. I get criticized for talking about the products I developed in my book. And it's just like, why do you think I wrote a book?
Yeah.
Nobody makes money off of writing books anymore.
Right.
Like literally nobody. Right. I mean,
except
maybe
for John Grisham.
Yeah. I was going to say fiction. You can make a lot of money writing fiction. But if you're writing a scientific text, you're probably going to have baked into that text some ideas that have something to do with your business. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
No.
I'm being 100% truthful in all the information I'm presenting, but I also have a patented product that goes along with all this information.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, man, this has been a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll get some amazing controversial clips out of this for you.
Cool.
But appreciate you coming on. Before we take off here, where should people go find out a little bit more about what you got going on?
Well, because my last name is so hard to spell, it's drj.com,
drj.com.
DOCTOR, the letter J.com. Then there's links to all my social. If you're going to follow me on one thing, follow me on Instagram. I just like the platform better.
Great.
And whenever I do something on YouTube, I always promote it.
And that's your full name, right? On Instagram?
It's Dr. Jaquish, DRJAQUISH.
Dr. Jaquish on Instagram.
Right. But you can find that through drj.com if you go to Dr. J.
Doctor spelled out DOCTORJ.com. Go check out some of the stuff that John has out there. If they're go to Google Maps, search for an OsteoStrong in your local area. Try to find find one of those spots. Go in, see if there's any issues that maybe you could.
Mostly, it's probably for your listeners. It's probably your mother's.
Okay,
it's probably
perfect.
Yeah, because
good to know.
Osteoporosis typically affecting 60 and over. Though it can affect younger people. It can affect people in their 20s if they're super inactive.
Yeah,
and if they eat like basically the standard American diet.
Yeah.
No, I mean I actually had a meeting at West Point not that long ago talking about how the best of the best coming into West Point are having osteoporosis. Think about that. Yeah, teenagers, 18 years old, they have osteoporosis. So it's becoming a much younger challenge. But yeah, for the most part, it's going to be postmenopausal population. So, ask your mother if she has low bone density and then try and find an OsteoStrong.